How many people here would like to double their income?
Yes.
Yes.
If I could show you how, would you give it a try?
Yes.
That's the only test question of the evening. Because do you know how many times the average person tries on a new goal before they give up? Less than once. They say, oh, I'd like to double my income, and then they think of all the reasons why it's not possible. The most important thing is that you take action. You see, the major difference between successful people and failures is successful people are action-oriented and failures are not. And I keep looping back to that, and I've been studying this for 30, 40 years now, and I keep looping back, and I found every single study says that successful people are result-oriented. Successful people are action-oriented. They think of what they want and they take action. Does it work? Now, if you take action, only two things can happen. What are they? Succeed or fail. Pretty simple. If you succeed, you do more of it. If you fail, what do you do?
Try something else.
You learn something and try something else. Human beings are trial and failure organisms. We trial and fail, try and fail, try and fail, try and fail, try and fail, and then try and succeed. Phil Knight, the president of Nike Shoes, says, you only have to succeed the last time. And you know, if you read every single story of every single man or woman who's ever accomplished anything, their entire life is a lifetime of failure. It is failure, 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 outstanding success. Boy, wasn't he lucky. You'll find that successful people try far more things, and most of the things you try won't work. At least they won't work initially. So therefore, the thing is to keep trying, because you have a cybernetic organism or a mechanism built into your brain, which means every time you try anything, you learn something. You try something and you learn something, and you learn what works and you learn what doesn't work. So you find there's a direct relationship between the number of times you try and how likely it is you are to triumph. And so if you hear a good idea today, resolve to give it a try. And the faster you try it, the better. I was speaking to a man who's one of the richest men in the world today, started off basically selling soap from door to door. He's now worth billions of dollars. And he said, you know, in his company, they did a study, and they found there's a direct relationship between how fast a person takes action on a new idea and how likely it is that they will ever take action on any idea at all. In the information on this seminar, they talk about breaking bad habits. The worst habit of all is inaction. The worst habit of all is developing the disease of excusitis, which is an inflammation of the excuse-making gland, which is invariably fatal to success. The best habit you can develop is the habit of taking action on it, giving it a try, giving it a shot. And the faster you take action on any new idea, the more likely it is you'll take action on other ideas as well. So I'm going to give you a whole lot of ideas. What I'm going to ask you to do is give them a try. And these ideas are not going to cost you $1 million. I'm not going to ask you to jump out of a plane without a parachute. As they say, if at first you don't succeed, then skydiving is probably not for you. But in other words, I'm not going to ask you to take any risk, but you hear a good idea, take action on it quickly, because the natural problem with human beings is inertia, is we get stuck in a comfort zone, and we think it's a good idea, but then we wish to, and we hope to, and we intend to, and then nothing ever happens. What is the road to hell paved with? Good intentions. And so it's very important that you become action-oriented. And by the way, you are action-oriented right from the get-go, because you're here. You had to go through a lot of sacrifice and planning and organizing and come on, hurry up, we're going to be late, that sort of thing. And come get down here, find a parking space, wade through the cold, get in here. So obviously you're action-oriented already. You've got the foundation ingredients, and I hope to build on those. Well, I'm going to give you some ways, by the way, to double your income. I'll give you several different ways that have been guaranteed. And I've spoken to people here today who've already doubled their income in the last 12 months using some of these principles. Now, I have some good news for you. Everybody here is going to double their income. It's inevitable. It's guaranteed.
All right.
Yes, and it's guaranteed as long as you live long enough. In other words, the average income in America goes up at about 3 to 4% a year. So if you live and work another 18 to 22 years by compound interest, you'll double your income. Is this what you had in mind? No. Say no. No. When do you want to double your income? Now. That's right. Yesterday would be okay. All right. So I want to show you something. I hired a consultant to work for my company, and he showed me something which I've then adapted to different purposes. He left me with a crummy T-shirt and this graph. And that's all. I don't remember anything else he did. But this graph was very interesting. The graph is a graph of income and financial success over life. This is what he said. So he said basically everybody starts off at 0, and this is the amount of money that you can make, and then this is the amount, this is your salary income over the course of your life. Now, this is time, and this is the number of years of your life on this scale. And then up here, you have the amount that you achieve at the end of your lifetime. Well, most people start off, and I'll use black as an example, but most people start off earning something in their first job. And then what happens is their life, their financial life, is very much like a bad week on the NASDAQ. It goes up, down, sideways. Sometimes they're broke, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're employed, sometimes they make a lot, then they're unemployed, and they're up, down. It's just like this. Basically, this is what happens throughout the course of their working lifetime. They're broke, they're in the money, they're out, they get, and so on. And then sometimes they're the windshield, sometimes they're the bug, okay? And at the end of their lifetime, as a result of experience, plus luck, this is where they end up. And the average for the great majority of people is about 3% increase per year over the course of your working lifetime. Now, this is very much, what I have found, is very much like driving across country on the farm roads. Trying to make real progress, but you're driving across country on the farm roads with no road signs and no road maps. You notice when you're born, you don't get an instruction kit. Okay? In other words, you have to figure it all out for yourself. So most people live their lives like backing up in the night and hitting something that goes thump, and you get out to see what it is, and it's a new job, or it's a new marriage, or it's an investment, or it's a new business. And so most people drive their life watching through the rearview mirror and going thump and hitting something, getting out to see what it is. So imagine you're driving across country, but imagine you're driving a Mercedes-Benz, brand new off the lot, $96,000, sophisticated electronic engineering, beautifully aligned, beautifully laid out in every single respect, but you're lost on the back roads with no road signs and no road maps. You still never make any progress. Half the time you're lost and you find yourself back, and then you're out and you're in the ditch and so on. This is the equivalent of having a great mind, living in a great country, having tremendous ambition, being intelligent, thoughtful, educated, experienced, hardworking, all the qualities that you have. But if you have all those that are in the back road and you have no road signs and no road maps, you could spin your wheels forever. So let's say you're driving along the roads and you're frustrated and you've been driving for years. Your bank account is empty. Tens of thousands of dollars have gone through your fingers. You worry about money half the time. You eat too much, drink too much, watch too much television, have too little money at the end of the month. Does anybody know what I'm talking about here? Okay? Because we've all been there for a long time. And then while you're driving along, your navigator says, honey, you know, there's a freeway over there. Every so often we can see it through the trees, and cars are whipping along it. There's a freeway over there. If we could get onto that freeway, we could really make some tremendous progress. Now, the freeway is knowledge plus skill, which is what you are here to acquire today. So what you do is you say, okay, how do we get onto the freeway? And what you do is start working your way across and working your way across and figuring out how to get onto the freeway. And once you get onto the freeway, whoa, you put your pedal to the metal and you start to make incredible progress. You start to make incredible progress. And this is the difference between being on the freeway and the back roads. Now, in the course of your working lifetime, there's 2 or 3 factors. First of all, you make far more money on the freeway. This is the additional money that you make. So you're making vastly more in the same period of time, and you end up with vastly more. This is how much you end up with at the end of your working lifetime. The other factor is that this is controlled. This is controlled, whereas being on the back roads is uncontrolled and random. So this is under your control, so you're actually increasing your rate of increase at a faster rate. So in the same number of years, going back to here, in the same number of years that somebody is making a little bit, worrying about money, broke half the time, you're on the freeway and you are just whipping along. Now here's the important point. There's not a whit of difference between the person on the back roads and the person on the freeway in terms of talent, ability, and opportunity. In fact, you could be driving a rusted out, burnt out jalopy spewing pollution out of the back, but if you're on the freeway, you'll make greater progress than a person driving a Mercedes who's on the back roads. There's nothing will make you madder than seeing somebody dumber than you making more money than you. You had that experience? Boy, is that ever a bummer, isn't it? You say, how can that idiot make so much money? And why? It's because the idiot has just gotten onto the freeway. Now, you know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? Yes. That nitwit, he can't fight his bum with both hands, and he's driving a new car, you know, and living in a nice house. The interesting thing is there's not a whit of difference. Nobody is smarter than you, and nobody's better than you. Please get this out of your mind. This is one of the greatest soul-destroying obstacles to success, is we get this idea that if somebody's doing better than me, he or she must be better than me. In other words, we jump to conclusions, groundless conclusions, but we assume that correlation is causation. He is better, he is doing better, he must be better. But then we make the next jump, like a frog jumping from lily pad to lily pad. The next jump is that I must be worse than him if he's better than me. Then you start thinking, well, he lives in a big house and drives a nice car. He or she must be worth more than me, so therefore I must be worth less. And the feeling of undeservingness, worthlessness, being less than other people, and inferiority complex is the #1 reason for underachievement and failure. It's like entering a race with a racer whose you feel is vastly faster than you. You don't even try. What the heck? I don't have the right ingredients. I didn't get good grades in school, so therefore I'm not going to do well in life. And by the way, we did a little bit of surveying on your background before you came here tonight, and we found, this will shock you, there are people in this very room who did not get good grades in school. Yes. Can you believe that? You may be sitting next to one of them right now. And we know who you are. And the point is this, if you were told all the time you were growing up, and you were conditioned to believe you don't get good grades in school, don't go to college, don't go to a good college, you won't do well in life, then what you do is you sit there with your foot on the brake of your own life. And you'll hold yourself back. And there's no real reason. All the problems, all the obstacles are within us. Anais Nin, the wonderful writer, said, we don't see the world the way it is, we see the world the way we are. And so what happens is we think, well, I wasn't that smart, I came from a small town, didn't go to a great college. Forget about it. Do you know Forbes magazine does the Forbes 400 each year? And in the Forbes 400, they take the 400 richest men and women in America. Well, every so often they slice and dice them on different categories. Not long ago, what they did is they took and they sliced and diced them in terms of education versus net worth. They find that if you dropped out of high school and you made it to the Forbes 400, your average net worth would be $300 million more than if you had gone to the finest universities. In other words, there was a total negative correlation between net worth and education. It's the less education you had, the more you'd be worth if you got onto the Forbes 400. And that's why some of the richest and most successful people in America are people who didn't do particularly well in school. But if you believe, because I didn't do well in school, and I sure didn't do well in school, that you're held back, then that will become true for you. It becomes your truth, even though it is totally contradicted by all experience